Hey, this is Dave with Wearing Media, and today in the outdoor kitchen we're celebrating the Season 2 kickoff. So we're making bacon wrapped filet with sliced roasted potatoes, roasted green bean medley, red wine reduction sauce, and pan-seared mushrooms and onions. Hello there, this is Dave, Wearing Media, wearingmedia.com. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Kitchen. Today we're making a nice celebration dinner, or a nice date night, bacon wrapped filet. Oh, and I forgot, I'm going to grab some herbs from the herb wall. While I do that, please watch how I prepared all this. Sliced up some onion rings, pulled the stems off the mushrooms, sliced up the mushrooms, sliced the ends off of the green beans, sliced the potato really thin. If you have a mandolin, use that, but I didn't. And then I removed all the fat from the filet. It was a big chunk of fat and everything else. I want every bite of filet to be delicious. I want every bite my guest tastes to be amazing. No fat on a filet. Then I wrapped it with bacon. And I was all gentle about it. So I'm back. The herb wall had some rosemary, oregano, and thyme. It's going to be delicious. We're going to use that to bake the filet after we've seared it. I've also got some red wine. It doesn't matter what kind of red wine you use, whether you like Merlot, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Malbec, they're all great. The only thing that matters is that you enjoy it. Today I've got a Pinot Noir because my wife enjoys Pinot Noir. So I'm gonna pour myself a tasty beverage, nice glass of Pinot, and then I'm going to pour about a cup of this into our cast iron skillet. But first, we're gonna sear our steak and put that on the cast iron, and then we're gonna throw the rest of it into the barbecue. I don't have an oven out in the outdoor kitchen, so we're using the barbecue, but we get the added bonus of having a nice little hickory smoke with it as well. So I'm gonna add some salt and pepper, and then I'm gonna come back here and grab my garlic, and I'm gonna add the garlic into the red wine. That's where we're gonna put our herbs in a little bit, and that is what our filet is going to bake in. If you have an oven at home, it's the same thing. We're gonna go with about 350 to 400 degrees, and we are going to bake it for about 10 to 12 minutes after we sear it. So first, I'm going to put some bacon down and use some of this fat from the filet. And all I'm looking for here is some grease. I just want some grease. I want this stuff to render down. We're on a really low heat on the cast iron skillet over here. Add my herbs into my pan real quick. And the reason why we're using a low heat is because we got a lot going on. We're going to slow everything down. And we're going to make sure we don't burn anything. Move this down here. I'm going to sear my filet real quick. Add down a little bit of olive oil. And then I'm going to throw some garlic over the top of that. And this is what we are going to use to sear our filet. So we're going to sear it first on both sides. No more than 3 minutes per side. I'm going to add the rest of this fat over here. Oh, that piece, there's no fat there. I'm going to cook that. We're going to add the rest of our fat over here, and we're just looking for that to render down. I want some nice beef grease, I want some bacon grease, and we're going to cook our potatoes over that next. So these three things are all going to cook evenly. And I'm going to take a sip of my tasty beverage. I'm going to show you here a nice little close-up of what everything looks like. My Wearing Media phone. We got our bacon fat rendering down. We have our filet sizzling, and we have our wine coming to a little bit of heat with our herbs, our garlic, and our extra piece of meat that we trimmed off. It was necessary, I promise you. So I'm going to grab as much of this garlic as I can, get that at the bottom of this. Clean up a little bit, and while I clean up, please watch this food sizzle. Check my oven, show you our temperature gauge here. We're at about 300 now. When I turn the hickory smoke on, the burner that burns the hickory smoke, that's going to be at about 350 to 400. I'll give you one more close up here of this nice filet sizzling and searing away. I think this is about seared. I'm gonna add it into our pan here in a little bit, and I don't have an oven out here again, like I said before. So my grill is at 350 to 400 degrees, and we're gonna cook this for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's gonna give me a perfect medium rare. If you want medium, go for about 20 minutes. If you want medium well, go for about 25 minutes in the oven. And if you want well done, you probably shouldn't be eating a filet because you are gonna burn it. I'll never tell anybody how to cook a well done filet. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna add some of this delicious wine and garlic on the top here, and then I'm gonna throw some of these herbs over the top as well. I'm gonna make sure the filet is sitting on top of these herbs. I'm gonna stick it in what I'm gonna call my oven, but it's basically just a barbecue grill, medium high heat at 350 degrees. Let me turn on this burner here. And this burner off to the side is just got some hickory wood that I'm gonna smoke and add a nice little flavor to this. It's the same exact thing as an oven, but let me show you the little bit of difference here is that this particular grill has a little tray to hold the wood. So when I turn those two burners on, it'll start lighting the wood and it'll smoke a little bit. That'll get us up to around 350, 400, being the nice temperature that we want. And then we're gonna move on to our potatoes. We're gonna move on to our green beans. And we're gonna move on to our mushrooms and onions. So first I'm gonna salt these potatoes, and then I'm gonna pepper them. And when that's done, I'm gonna stick them down on top of the beef fat and the bacon that's been rendering down over there. And this is another reason why we're going low heat today, because we don't want to burn our bacon. We're not trying to cook the bacon really fast. We're just trying to get some of that grease down to keep these potatoes from sticking and to give them more flavor. If you have a mandolin, you can cut them using that, but I just sliced them thin. You want thin sliced potatoes for this. This is the perfect dish for a date night. This is the perfect dish if you want to celebrate a college grad. Anybody can do it. And the trick is just use low heat. Everything I'm doing over here on this cast iron skillet, griddle, whatever you want to call it, is basically just a giant piece of cast iron sitting on top of an old grill. Everything I do on this griddle, you can do in a cast iron skillet. Whether you're cooking for one, whether you're cooking for two, if you're cooking for three or more, you can do it as well. You just have to slow down. So I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil and a little more garlic. A little more garlic and a little more garlic. I just like the flavor of garlic. Mainly, that garlic was for our mushrooms and onions. And it looks like I need to work on the leveling of this cast iron a little bit. Most of that oil spilled down into the green beans. Eventually, I'll just mix all those together. We're gonna add our mushrooms and onions over the top of it. Now, I made a mistake here. I probably should have... These things are slippery. I probably should have taken the onions and... We're looking for rings on this, so I probably should have taken the onions and separated them before I put them on the griddle. So I'm going to have trouble with that. But I'm going to move these mushrooms and onions out, move the mushrooms down. Most of the garlic is in there with them. Stir all that up. I want to separate these. I'm looking for kind of like onion rings. And the reason why is because we are going to put these on top of the filet. It's going to be kind of more of a garnish. When you make a dish like this, it doesn't take much to impress, especially if you're cooking it at home. People think like, oh man, you can cook a filet really well, huh? Well, sure. Absolutely I can. Tell them that. Watch this video. Do one. Prepare one for yourself. It's not that expensive. These ones here are tough to get out. I should have pulled these off before I put them on. I don't know why I did. Oh, man down. Man down. I'm gonna take this over here to the cutting board, and I'm gonna kind of improvise a little bit. I'm gonna take some of these pieces of onions. I'm just gonna slice them up. And then we'll throw them into the medley. We'll throw them on top of the mushrooms. So we'll make a mushroom and onion medley. Presentation is what's going to set this up. So at the end of this, we'll show you how to make a plate with the potatoes as a bed, then the filet, and then the mushrooms and onions over the top. So make sure you have at least like 3 or 4 of these rings that you can stick over the top of the filet. And I'm checking all my potatoes over here. This is why we're going with low heat. You just want to make sure that everything cooks nice and even. Nothing's going to get burnt on a low heat. You've got time. You've got about 15 minutes before your steak is done from the oven. So use this to impress your date. Use this time to have a conversation. Use this time to celebrate your grad. Make sure that you just slow down a little bit here. Toss these potatoes around. Make sure they don't get burnt. High heat is what will burn and ruin this food. But this is low heat, and we're attending to all of it all at once. So I'm mixing all this stuff up. Just want to kind of toss these mushrooms and onions around. Flip these onions over here. Make sure my 3 and 4 rings are still good to go. Again, low heat is what gives us the time to mess with all this stuff. You can cook it faster, you can cook it hotter if you're a restaurant, if you have done this before, if you don't have that much time. But we've got time. And look, our smoke is rolling over here on our grill. This is why I put it on the barbecue instead of in the oven. I'm trying to give you guys a nice shot of this hickory smoke rolling out of the grill here. Yeah, there you go. Sun is setting on our day. We're going to enjoy a delicious meal with some nice red wine. What better way to enjoy a celebration or the end of a journey? Or the beginning of a new one with a nice date. Or anything. What better way to celebrate anything than just to eat a nice delicious piece of filet? Every bite is delicious. There's no fat to pull out. There's nothing to render down. A filet is just, man, it's my favorite cut of beef. It's so tender. It's kind of hard. Some people may get scared when they cook a filet, but to me, I don't think you can screw it up. Because even if it's rare or raw, or if it's maybe a little bit more well done than you'd like, it's still delicious. So if you screw it up, just use that as an opportunity to cook it all over again. Obviously, eat the one that you think you screwed up first. But then buy another one. And try it again. This particular steak was about $8. I trimmed it down a little bit. It'll serve one person. And then the potato was 40 cents. The mushrooms and onions were $1.50. Green beans were $1.50. The whole meal is not expensive. If you buy tenderloin filet for 2 people, that's about $20. You don't need a lot either. Well, let me give you a nice little glimpse of what we're doing here. See how the onions are just browning nicely. The mushrooms are browning. Green beans are browning. The potatoes are browning. Everything is just brown. It's turning brown and cooked and delicious. There's no burning because our heat is on low and we're relaxing and we're taking our time. We're almost done over here in the oven. I'm going to clean up a little bit. Kind of move my butter over here. Get ready for some of the stuff that's coming. But we're almost ready to go. The sun is starting to set on our day. It's creeping into my camera shots. Taking a nice little sip of my red wine. And I do believe we've got some extra time. So I'm going to grab a plate. And I'm going to take one more sip of my delicious beverage. And I'm going to tend to my potatoes. And then I'm going to grab a plate and show you how to set up the presentation for this. And then, after I set up the presentation, I'm going to slice into this filet to show you what it looks like on the inside. Give you the old money shot there. Work on trying to get some better close-up shots of the finished food for you. Look at all this though. It's all caramelized, it's all cooked down. It's ready to go. We're good to go here. I'm about to pull my filet out and then I'll start plating. But all I'm doing here is just making sure nothing is burning. And I'm kind of just fidgeting because we got a little bit extra time. But our onions are done. I'm going to pull those off to the side. I'm using my piece of bacon as flavor. It'll cook on its own. I've got some hickory smoke rolling over the filet over here at 350 degrees. I'm going to start pulling some of this stuff off. We'll start with the bacon. I'm going to chop this up. Slice it in half first. And then I'm going to chop it up fairly finely. And this is going to go over the green beans when I'm done with those. Stir up all this stuff. This extra pieces of beef, look, these are going to be really well done. We're not looking to eat these. Oh, see all that fat that was in there? It didn't render down. There's not a lot of beef left. Most of that's fat. So I'm going to save that for Coda. He can eat that. He'll love it. He's probably sitting here begging right now anyways. And as the sun creeps in, I'm going to pull the rest of these out. Grab these onion rings. That's going to be my garnish over the top of the filet. Pull those off. Get some of these potatoes that are a little more well done and get them off the heat. Pull these green beans off. Basically just taking everything off the heat right now. And I'm setting it up because we are going to plate. We're going to do restaurant style plating. Check this. Yeah, that's looking good. Give you the money shot there in a minute. If you really want to impress everybody that you're cooking for, it's not necessarily the stuff that you cook and how delicious it tastes, but also if you can practice how it looks, that's going to set you apart. So while I wait for my steak to finish, I'm going to try and pull as much of these potatoes and mushrooms off as I can. I'm going to get everything ready on my cutting board, and when I grab my plate, it'll be easy to serve it up on that dish for my guest. Give you a shot of what's happening here as I open this lid. Here we go. Oh yeah. Got the hickory smoke rolling over the top. You can see how the wine rendered down. Got the cooked steak. The bacon is cooked. Man, that's looking good. So I'm going to pull this off. I'm gonna sit it on top of the flat top for a little bit, and that's gonna help me make a red wine reduction sauce using that beef stock. So in order to do that, I'm gonna add some more red wine in, probably about another cup. I'm only gonna use red wine and butter. If you want it thicker, you can use a little bit of flour. You can also use a little bit of cream, but we're just using red wine, beef stock, and butter today. And that filet is looking perfect. That's gonna be a really, really great medium rare. And I'm gonna pull that off, let that sit and rest. You always wanna let beef rest before you slice into it. Move these mushrooms out of the way, get the rest of those out of there. And I'm gonna remove the last of the herbs from my sauce. Okay, so now this is ready for butter. I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of butter that's soft, and I'm gonna melt it down into this red wine reduction. And basically all this is red wine, beef stock, and butter. I'm gonna stir. When you add your butter, stir like this. I'll give you a nice close-up shot of what I'm doing here. But just stir. Make sure all this butter renders down. Keep stirring, keep stirring. When you're tired of stirring, stir a little bit more. Until all of your butter is just completely rendered. And then you'll be good to go. Grab the last of these mushrooms and onions. And let that reduction sauce just kind of render down a little bit more. If you had an open flame and you wanted that cool restaurant look, this is when you would catch it on fire and it would go whoo. Alright, so we're ready for plating. Let me chop up. This bacon isn't really as fine as I want it. I want this bacon to be a lot more chopped very finely. If you had some honey and walnuts, oh man, drizzle a little bit over that. This is what the piece looks like that was in oven with our filet. It's gonna be well done. But don't worry, this one is way smaller than the rest of the fillets. To start plating, I'm gonna take these potatoes and I'm gonna make it just a circular pattern. It's gonna be a bed for the filet to sit on. Make it as tight as possible. Just lay these on top of each other here. And just make a circle. Add one more right here. There we go. That gives us a nice spot for the filet to sit on. Grab this bad boy. Well rested. See which would be a good spot. Would that be good to put on top? Nah, I'm gonna flip it over. Put it over this way. Alright, rest that on top of the potatoes. Take our onion rings and stick those on the top. And finally, come back and grab some mushrooms. Stick these mushrooms on top in our little onion ring hole that we made there. I'm gonna grab these green beans and stick them off to the side here. You can get creative with your plating. I'm just kind of using that as a side. And then I'm going to stick my bacon over the top of that. I've got extra mushrooms and onions. No reason to let those go to waste. This is why you don't need that much filet. You don't need to spend a ton of your money. Don't spend all of your budget on the filet. You can buy the mushrooms and the onions. All this stuff will fill people up. Would you rather have a little bit of something that tastes amazing or a lot of it of something that just tastes kind of okay? That's my philosophy here. So this is definitely a petite filet. There's no more than 8 ounces here. But it's going to be delicious. We'll take our red wine reduction and pour it over the top. Move our serving plate out of the way. I'm gonna add just a little bit more sauce over the top of this. We'll grab a couple of spoonfuls here. And I'm gonna give you guys some thumbnails, some close-up shots. There we have it. Looking great. Bacon wrapped filet on a bed of seared potatoes with some garlic mushrooms and onions over the top and green beans and bacon. Enjoy, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and eat well at home.